Our demonstrator tonight is Angelo Iafrate. He's, I guess, almost from the founding of the club. You've been there, haven't you?
No,
Oh,
no. I joined the AAW back in 1990, so it was well formed before I got involved.
okay. That's like 30 years of turning by my calculation. And he got doing professional work after what, about 10 years of turning. And they got into doing magic acts. And if you look at his website, it's magic.
It's Magic Brand Wood Turning, but I don't think the website is active anymore. It may still be out there, I don't know.
Anyhow, he's going to show us some of his examples here of looks like undelivered pieces in some cases for magician customers, and show us all how to make the very detailed hollow shell ball, which nests inside another shell. Angelo?
Okay, well, okay, up here are handouts. There are measured drawings for the pieces that are up on the table. There's also copies of the article from American Woodturner that Stan Wellborn did a few years ago, talking about not only my work, but the work of other turners. I'm not the only one that's doing this stuff. But these are all pieces of magic, rejects from the Magic Factory. I think what we're going to do tonight first is talk about some photographs that I took of some magic wood turning. This back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, a fellow by the name of Floyd Thayer, originally from Vermont, moved to California and started Thayer Magic, and he turned all of these things as production turnings for his business. And what we see right here in this corner, I know that it's pixelated, are the ball boxes, which are the ones that are in plastic cases there on the table. He also turned, which isn't going to make much sense tonight, but rice vases. This vase here, filled with rice. You press a button, all of the rice falls down into the bulb in the bottom and exposes an orange. So that's what he was famous for. This in the center here is a cannonball vase. Cannonball is here. Is about 6 inches in diameter. That piece stands about 2 feet high. So the smaller pieces were made for close-up magic in a small theater or living room. The larger pieces were made for stage magic. Next. These are several examples of Floyd's work. These are painted, lacquered black and red. Everyone in the magic business touts that how well he was able to turn a sphere without a template. And I'm saying to myself, how did he ever turn the sphere without a template? But this is the little ball finial, and then there's the fancier finial there. The two vases on the right, you'll notice that the stem on the goblet is very thick. And what that allows the magician to do, there's a hole drilled up in that into the chamber of the bottom, so he can load a silk in there, and he can change the ball from round to a silk. Next one. These are, I started, I got to a point where I started making the ball boxes, which are again the ones in the plastic boxes, because I prepared so many of them. I was doing 3 or 4 shows a year for magicians, and I would just prepare the balls and shells in advance so that when I had the time to turn the vases, I didn't have to go through the painting process. That's not how you can see all of those. We can go to the next slide. Now, this is actually a sample of Floyd Thayer's work. So this was turned in the 20s or 30s, and you can see the level of finish that he did not do on the inside or the bottom. But when my pieces hit the shows, if I showed up with a piece like that, nobody wanted it. They wanted it finished. They wanted the shells inside finished.
What coating is on that,
On this,
on the inside? of the-
this is lacquer, spray lacquer,
That's it?
rattle can lacquer. Yep. So these are two of the ball boxes. One of these guys, Cocobolo, a beaded vase on the right, a 3-bead on the left. Okay. This is a milk drop finial. Is an idea I've had for a while. When I started turning these ball boxes last year, because I haven't turned them, well, probably in the last 5 years. So I had all of these pieces sitting around, just getting in the way, and I said, "Geez, I gotta get rid of these things." So I didn't want to throw them away, so I started to turn them. This is a 3-bead box. I'm going to pass this around because this is Vera wood, the cousin of lignum vitae. The grain matches across the 3 pieces, but if you can still smell the Vera wood, and if you notice the lacquer is all wrinkled on both painted pieces because of that. Not only did it wrinkle the lacquer, but it also clouded up the plastic. Milk drop piece, that's in a collection in Ohio. This is an orange base, the Tarbell Thayer Orange Mystery. Does this pretty much the same thing as all of these other illusions, with the exception that the free ball is a hank ball or a silk ball, and a silk ball is a hollow turning with a little handle on it, and you just stuff it this way. Through the manipulation, you make the whole thing disappear. It's really just hiding on the other side of your head. So that's what the orange base does. I don't have any to show you, but I have some in the process. What else we got up there?
What's the orange? Actual size orange?
No, the orange is only about that big.
One of the,
Can I do it? Sure, let's do this one. This is a transposition. You want to see the magic show?
yeah. Extra costs extra.
Okay, so here's magic transposition. Red goes to yellow, yellow goes to red. Okay, so I mean, it's really easy to figure it out. So you can change them back into a standard ball box. And let's see, I don't know that I can do this. But dump out both of them, multiply it. So I asked the magicians, and my hands are always slippery because when I turn, I wear off my fingerprints. And I said, well, what do you guys use to keep your hands sticky so that you don't lose control?
They wouldn't tell you.
They did tell me. Vagisil. I said, what? I said, really? Yep, that's what we use.
The 7-day stuff.
I don't know. These are Tayari cups. These are made in India. I don't know that they still make them, but if you've ever seen somebody play the 3-shot game, it works the same way. Makes balls appear and disappear. Let's go to another picture.
Wait, I mean, that's not legitimate.
That's not legit? Yeah, it's legit. Yeah. Okay, that's another. This is an original Thayer Tarbell Orange Mystery vase. There are 10 of them left in the world, so the people that own them covet them. So I've made 10 myself, so for me it's no big deal. For you guys, it would be no big deal either. You can see the texture on the orange base is like stippled, and they did that with a pounce wheel. If you know what a pounce wheel is, it's a wheel with little spikes sticking out of it. Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo used to use it when they painted frescoes. They would put their drawing up on the fresh plaster, and they would trace the lines with the pounce wheel, and then pound it with charcoal dust, so that they would have the lines in the fresh plaster to paint, used as a guideline. That's what made that texture. Wands, they had a show, Magic on Manhattan, has to be 10 years ago. They wanted 100 wands for giving out as favors and gifts to everyone who either worked the show or performed in the show. I was like, rather nail my toes to the floor.
Angelo, what were one of these that you made? What would they sell for? What's the value of those to magicians? I mean, I don't
It's a little personal. The little ones were selling for about $325, $350. These were $375. These were.
I mean, they're serious. I don't mean to ask specifics, but that's incredible artwork, and that's very serious part of their act.
Well, yeah, and they were willing to pay for it because the original pieces had appreciated so much in value that they didn't want to take them on the road anymore. So they were willing to pay a few extra bucks to have a replica, so that they could leave their priceless pieces at home.
Did the priceless pieces lose their shape or effectiveness?
I haven't found one that has. I've repaired a number of pieces, and they're all still pretty good.
What was your spark to get into that whole thing? It's kind of a real niche.
It is a niche. I got a phone call from a fellow up in near Boston, Brockton, somewhere out there. He said, "Can you turn a Morrison pillbox?" And I said, "Sure." What's a Morrison pillbox? He said, started to describe it on the phone. I said, I don't understand. He said, "Don't worry about it." He said, "I'll send you one." So he sent me a piece by John McKinnon. McKinnon was a magician who was interested in making replica pieces in the fashion of the old timers. And he was 1920 to 2006. I met him just before he passed away at a magic show in Washington, D.C. He said the only reason he came to D.C. was to meet me. And I said, "Gee, that's pretty high praise." I said, "I've been copying your work for a while." He said, "No." He said, "I took it from the French." He said, "You can have whatever you want." So that was pretty cool. So I ran the name Magic Brand Woodturning, MAJIC, AJI on my initials. He said, "That's a great name." So I kept it. That's how I got into it. And the Morrison pillbox are these guys. I have these because they're broken or no good for some reason or another. This is Gonzalo Alves. The shell doesn't stick in the lid. But sometimes it does.
Wow, that's the magic.
So the idea behind the Morrison, and if you take the time, you can match the grain across the shell and into the lid. So the idea was to leave the lid facing the audience so they could see there's nothing in it. You take the solid ball out, you vanish the solid ball. And when you put the vase back together, you make the ball come back.
You have form tools for that,
Pardon?
for those cups?
Do I what?
You have form tools to make the cups?
Yes.
No?
When I first started making these, I thought I would need a tool for each different radius on the curves.
Yeah.
So this fellow that was making these planer blade tools, his name is Frank Lynn. He lived in Kelso, Washington. I imagine he doesn't live there anymore, but he worked for Weyerhaeuser woodworking, Weyerhaeuser plywood, and they had these gigantic planer blades, which he would take and cut down into various scrapers. So for each different radius, I bought a tool and ground the radius for the inside of the shell, inside of the shell, inside of the lid, inside of the bottom shell, inside of the base of the bottom.
Yeah, because they're pretty precise.
Yeah, the problem with a radius that's ground precisely to what you need,
Yeah,
as you come close to that radius, the whole edge grabs
right.
and you get a hell of a catch. So I ended up going back to an irregular curve and using the template to establish the curve.
It's not a negative, right?
This is a negative rake. I ground it as a negative rake because Stuart Batty came on the scene a few years ago touting the great things that negative rake scrape can do for you. So this is a negative rake.
Angelo,
Yes.
somebody asked if you could repeat the questions from the audience because they can't hear.
Okay, we'll ask the people that are asking the questions to speak up then.
Not do that. Well, I don't know if the mics are picking them up or something.
Oh, okay. All right.
Angelo, the ball boxes that you passed around, that's just for making the single ball disappear and reappear. There's
Yeah,
no,
it's
there's not a
just-
secondary ball there.
Yeah, there's no secondary ball. The difference between, let's see if I have one here. Or do I have one here? No. Oh yeah, here's a little one. I don't know. There's a photograph of some orange pieces in that library. They're painted orange or colored orange. Okay, in the original pieces. Now this is a very tiny piece. These were made for magic sets. You would buy a box of magic and it would have 10 or 12 different kinds of magic in it, doing different kinds of things. Vanish a coin, vanish a ball, make silk spear, that kind of thing. And if you look at this little piece, the shell is the same piece as the ring.
Okay.
So if you took this and you put it back together, and you wanted to prove to you that I made the ball disappear, I couldn't really do that because you could open it up and find the shell.
Okay.
Okay, so here's that piece. You can pass that around. What these pieces do is that you can dump out the ball, multiply the ball like that, replace the shell or not replace the shell, take these out, vanish those, and then you can hand the whole thing over. And you can look inside and there's nothing. So I won't pass that one around, but I will pass this one. So that's the difference between these vases and those old time vases. I mentioned spring it.
That's a larger version.
That's a bigger version than that. Can we see that orange? Yeah, there they are. I love that little set. So if we go to the next slide. There you go.
Wow.
So that's a magic set back from 1890, early 1900s. The piece that he's holding between his fingers is about 1 inch tall.
That's some pretty fussy work.
What you've got to consider is that these were production items for wood turners back in the day. They were turning boxwood, and if they could get branches of boxwood that big, that's what they would make. And they would turn out hundreds of these, not just one or two. So when I turn these pieces, I'm turning 6 at a time because the muscle memory from doing the same thing over and over again makes it easier. And you water. Any questions so far?
You pretty much try to use boxwood as well.
No, I use mostly cherry. Cherry because I can go to Home Depot and ask for a 6x6 by 12-inch long piece of kiln dried cherry, and they'll have it. No. That's why when Henry brought in bowl blanks in cherry a couple of weeks ago, a month ago, a couple of months ago,
Yeah, a couple months, yeah.
those are going to be shells. They're not going to be bowls. So they're rough turned right now to be shells. Okay, what do we got next on the photograph? Oh, feather chop cups. All right, a chop cup is I don't have a chop cup to show you, but this is a chop cup. Chop cup, make a ball appear, you make it disappear, say magic word. Say a magic word.
Magic.
Didn't work.
Too much Vagisil.
So chop cup is got a little magnet in it, so it'll hold the little ball. And there's a unending number of routines that magicians will do with those things. Okay, what else we got? Chop cups, Ceylon satinwood and holly, Stairway to Heaven. Those pieces went over to Sweden. Okay, so here's another ball box. Works a little bit differently. This is this was part of a passe passe set. This is a passe passe set. One color goes to the other base. So this one here, the fake is in the lid. It comes out when you press the button. That's cool. That is cool. I made a set of those. The fellow that I made those for sent me that piece. He said, I want those and with a 6-inch ball. So the only thing that I had
fit in the cup.
Yeah.
not in that cup, no. So the only thing that I had that would make a 6-inch vase were walnut burls that I had bought probably years before. And I didn't have enough. I had to buy another walnut burl to make these pieces. When I gave him the price, he didn't bat an eye. He wrote the check, paid the bill. When I first started going to shows, which was really encouraging, there were collectors out from California who would sit at my table while I was unpacking. And as I was unpacking, he would say, I want that one, I want that one, I want that one.
And these are magic shows, right?
These are magic collector shows.
Yeah.
So these guys, the bill ended up being $10,000. Actually, see this guy again. I'm going to take these pieces home. So the last day, the last hour of the show, he came up with his checkbook and wrote the check out. I'm going to do this again.
Did you make this one?
No, that's an antique.
Hey, Angela,
Yeah.
I'm asking loudly
Yes.
for the group. The ones that have the buttons on the top, are they spring loaded?
Yes, they are. These are spring loaded. I'll pass them around after I explain what the problems are. These are shells from the early days. The blocks that I use for the shelves generally are look like this. Those are too thick. That's why I still have.
Thick.
I don't look at thousands. So this is another one. What else can I show you? Guessing a ball.
I'm just guessing.
Good guess. Okay, so these three guys right here, these are Morrison pillboxes. Back in the 30s, 20s and 30s, the big joke was, or the snake oil salesmen were selling these Morrison pills. The joke was they were so big you couldn't swallow them. So these became the Morrison pillboxes because these are supposed to be the size of a Morrison pill. But this one is a reject because it's made from dyed and stabilized spalted maple. I'll pass the half shell around, but you can see in this on the inside that there's it's been repaired because I dropped it on a concrete floor and it shattered. So it never made it to the shows. This is Gonzalo Alves. We saw this before earlier. If you hop into it, the shell will stick. And this one here is Italian plywood. Craft Supplies was selling it at the time. And you can get it in a couple of different color variations, but the idea that there's a shell in there is almost impossible to see, except that the red shows it gives it away. So
Who did the paint on it?
who did the paint?
Did the painting on
You mean the stabilization?
the finishing?
That's dyed and stabilized. It's color goes all the way through. It's dyed and stabilized. The color goes all the way through.
Oh,
It's
wow.
not painted. The stabilization process is that the colored acrylic or whatever it is they're using, I think nowadays they're using cactus juice, they call it. They dye the cactus juice, they put it in, they let it soak in a container for, depending on the wood, a day to a week. Then they put it under pressure to drive the color through, and then they put it under a vacuum to draw all the air out, and that sucks the plastic right through the wood. So it goes through. So it's not a paint. The broken part of this is that the shell fell on the floor, and the little edge, the wood is so soft that the edge of the shell snapped.
You're saying this is a reject?
Yes, they all are rejects.
Okay.
You get many customers who get back to you later that, hey, during your show, I dropped one and broke it. Can you make me another one? And do they have to send you the original piece back?
Yes. So if someone says, "Geez, your piece broke on me, I want another one." I said, okay, well, I'll send you another one, just send me the broken one. So it's like, I come from the show me state, right? Okay, in addition to balls, they also make egg vases. And these are feather vases. John McKinnon, I don't have a picture of John McKinnon's egg vase, but his finial, he carved the little chicken head. So the little button you push is a little chicken head. I said, well, I can't do that. I said, I got to have feathers. So I went up to Jack Festery and I said, Jack, you got to teach me how to do feathers, which he did. So this is a complete vase. All the parts are here, but it's just not carved yet.
So it's can fall apart.
So that'll be the vase when it's done. It takes about 5 or 6 days for me to carve the feathers. And, I don't do them often. In fact, this is one of the last 3 I'll make in this size.
That's impressive.
Okay. Let's see what else I got up here. Okay, the solid balls, turning to tangents. This is was an 8-sided figure. I turn the corners off. It becomes a 16-sided figure. These shaded corners will be turned off next, so it'll become a 32-sided figure. And then I'll put it in the chucks and turn it round. And I turn them to templates.
And so on this plywood one,
Yeah,
did you glue it together or?
one piece.
It's waking.
One piece, yep. So the shells start out like this. They get rough turned like this. They get taped together like that, and they get stored for. This is mahogany that's been stabilized clear. And the color came out so dark, I don't have any mahogany that'll match it. So those will probably never get made. Sure.
I'll grab it.
This European mahogany.
No, that's African mahogany. Okay, let's see some more pictures, please. Yeah, that's a cannonball vase. You can see down in the right-hand corner, there's a cannonball. That cannonball is about 6 inches thick. So here's the cannonball. Now you all can come up and take a look at this. I'm not going to pass this around. But it's a cherry shell. The solid ball is actually hollow. It's a glue up of plywood, 3/4 inch plywood. And to save weight, because this could actually, if the magician dropped it into the shell, he could split the shell. So I tried to make it as light as possible. Maybe you can come up and take a look at that. Okay, any more pictures? Okay, that's a giant egg vase. That egg that you see painted is the size of an ostrich egg, so it's about that big. This is a vase that I designed based on pyramid, step pyramid. It's African blackwood. I've only made about 7 or 8 of them. They've gone to different collectors in Ohio, Florida. What's his name? The magician in Las Vegas there. A couple of different magicians have these in their collection. This was an interesting piece. This was made especially for a fellow in California. Bill McElhaney was the big collector. He's the guy who used to sit by my table. He said, I want you to make me a bland mortar and pestle. I said, what's a bland mortar and pestle? I thought bland was not very tasty. Bland was the company name. Bland Magic used to make these mortar and pestle. That mortar and pestle, the mortar is about that big. It has a trap door in the bottom. The magician asks for a watch from the audience, a volunteer watch from the audience. He puts it in the mortar and sneaks it out of this trap door in the bottom, takes the pestle and starts to grind what the audience thinks is the guy's watch. Inside the knob of the pestle is hollow. Inside that hollow are broken watch pieces. So you press the button at the top of the handle, the broken watch pieces come out, you dump out the broken watch pieces, and the guy goes berserk. And then you hand him his watch. This is a feather vase, blue feather, gold egg, went to Italy. So what you're seeing in pieces is what it'll be. This is Ken Trombley in Washington, D.C. If you look in the upper right-hand corner, you see 4 vases. From the right is Paduc, Messer Birch, Cocobolo, and a feather vase. And down on the second shelf, you can see the smaller pieces that would have come in a magic set. Feathered chop cups. These went to a fellow by the name of Bill Palmer. He has the largest collection of cups and balls in the world. Cupsandballsmuseum.com. This is a set of chop cups that I made for a fellow out in Denmark. Okay, so we can show the video and you can see what we're going to do there. I'll pass around. These are the steps in making the shell. Start with a blank, go to the half shell, turn to tangents, follow it, and you should see the rest of it here. Here are the steps for making a solid ball. So they're drilling the depth hole. Oh, okay, so we're not going to show that. You can pause that for a minute. We can turn the shell here if you want. Okay, typically what I'll do is I'll make a set of templates for each piece. There's a template for the vase. I'm not going to pass the shell templates around because I'm going to use them. But this is typically what I do for each size piece.
What is the template material there?
This is 1/16 inch plastic. We used to use this for making plastic templates of kitchen countertops. So I used to take some of the scraps home for this. I believe it's the same stuff they use for plastic models. Styrene, yeah. Okay, somebody said, I heard somebody say, that's a pretty big chuck for a little lathe. It is. It's a machinist chuck, and they were correct in saying that it's an Axminster chuck with O'Donnell jaws. The backstory for Axminster is that the chucks were made in Poland by Bison. And these chucks are 30 years old. So back in the day when I got these chucks, the only thing that Axminster was making were the O'Donnell jaws. Everything else was made in Poland. At least as far as I know.
What are you making now, Angelo? Which one of these?
We're going to turn a shell.
Shell.
Not mine. Okay, so I set this is also very big for this little lathe. Before coming here, I measured the depth based on the template so that can you see that, everyone? There seems to be something in there. So that the depth is marked by this precise depth gauge of masking tape. Okay. Okay, so we've marked the depth of the shell. We'll mark the diameter of the shell with the calipers. The light is really good there. See that mark? Okay, so this is a 3-inch long and strong or detail gouge. Back following with that. The tool comes in its center into the drill hole. The action of the tool is between 12 and 1 o'clock. And the action of the handle is pushed down straight toward the headstock. Can't get those lamps too soon. Yeah, it does, actually. Okay, so that the action of the tool, if you noticed as I came out, the fullness of the curve, it started to grab. It's because the bevel is coming away from the wood, because when you're pushing it this way, you lose contact with the bevel with the tool rest set just below center. So to get a bigger diameter, you have to raise it just a little bit to get the diameter. I'm not going to go to the mark. I'm going to go close to it and I'm going to scrape to the finish. The depth looks like it might be okay. The diameter is no good. Yes, my on-off switch is over here. What's that? Most of go.
So with this negative rake scraper, the cutting edge acts best at center line. So it's makes turning the shells a lot easier than a scraper that's conventionally ground. Okay, well, it's close for demo piece. That's why I have my fingerprints. Okay, so for me, if this rocks back and forth, it's not deep enough, or it's not going in far enough. And you can you can put a little chalk on the edge of this plastic and give yourself a little telltale to see where it's rubbing. Go after that spot. Because you have a depth hole, you know where the bottom is. Because you have a diameter mark, you know where the round is. But where it's at 45 degrees in between those, you don't have any reference. So for me, that's always the problem spot. And it's the problem spot tonight. Now, if this were not a negative rake scraper, I couldn't do the cuts that I'm doing here now. Because it's at center line and it's cutting in a flat plane. A standard grind on a scraper, you'd have to raise the handle in order to get it to cut as a negative rake scraper. Okay, I'm not going to belabor the point, but that's the idea.
You know, is the face of your workpiece the actual diameter? I mean, is it, are you slightly below the diameter? Or are you going to be working on that? Do you have excess on there to cut off afterward?
No, if the little sample that I sent around with the different pieces, the different phases, this I usually scrape to finish, and that's going to be the mark that I use for the rest of the shell. So I'll scrape this surface here, and I'll slightly undercut it like you would a regular box so that you get a nice edge to joint up against. And that becomes that. So then to turn to tangents, this is the outside tangent. We're going to turn these three faces or four faces this way. So it depends. So for this first facet, I'm going to turn here, that mark, this mark, and then this mark. Somehow that doesn't look right. All right. There's the bottom. And
So those are the marks I really want. I really, really want. The depth here is there. So you can see that there's going to be 1/2 a facet there, another facet there, and that's the top of the shell. So in order to turn that 45-degree face, I'm going to turn a tenon that's that diameter where the top of the shell is, so I know where that corner becomes. Notice I'm standing out of the line of fire. So now I have the outside diameter, I have the corners marked. So if I connect the dots, it'll be a 45-degree facet. The shell will be a little thick because I neglected to pay attention to that. Okay, so this is 1/2 a facet here. I'm going to make a corner. I'm going to divide that in two there, divide that in two again, divide in two again. So the corners that I want to take away is this corner and that corner. This is turning to tangents. So the tangent here at 45 degrees is already a 1/16 of an inch thick. To get down to the next corner, which is in the wood. Part down to that corner. And then further get to the edge of it. So once I've gotten that done, I can come back and I can take those other corners away. And be almost where I need to be for the ship. I don't know if the tempest will fit because I'm a little big here, but I'll give it a shot. And I see I'm a little big on the diameter, but we'll take it as it comes. So we'll part this away. Because the piece is being painted, I don't care too much about dimple marks from the chuck, because I'm going to sand it and paint it. If there are little dimples, I can fill them. And then using a skew as a negative versus scraper, using that and my circle template. And scrape myself around. Now, one thing that you need to check and you need to be made aware of is that if you trim the lid, the top of the shell too thick, it pushes the shell up into the lid further than it needs to be. And it makes it easy to to hide the shell in the lid. It makes it easy to turn through the lid. So these nifty calipers that'll tell you how thick that is at the top. Put the numbers on the outside. So that looks like it's about a 16th, 3/32 of an inch thick at the top, which is consistent with the thickness of the shell, but not the diameter that you would need to make the piece. So you can see those. Okay, that should get us up to where the video starts. And we should watch the video for the rest of the shell. It takes me about 6 hours from beginning to end to make one of these things. And if I'm making them 6 at a time, that's a week's worth of work. I don't think you want to watch all of that, so we'll see it on the video. There is sound on it.
At the bottom, correct? Check your speaker, John. Bring that back up again. See the speaker at the bottom has an X on it?
Yep, that one. It's a light pencil. That was a revelation for me. Using a graphite pencil. These two lines represent this bird's beak right here. So before I turn down to that diameter, I want to check to see how far the hollow goes down. And it's about a 1/4 inch away. So wasting the wood away. This is the bottom of the vase. So the shoulder I just turned, is that flat right there? Flat to the left where the bottom of the vase is. That's the so right there. So now I've got the three pieces of rough turret. I have the lid, the ring, and the bottom of the base. And then we'll turn between centers. You can hear when that piece spins, there's a little bit of a rattle. That's because it's not a tight fit between the lid. Put up in form follow center. So the voice in my head says, if it looks right, it's wrong. If it looks wrong, it's right. Okay, there's the slot in the pieces. So the ring is the really loose part. Now what I've got there is a piece of kitchen paper towel. Most paper towels are 2-ply. I pull those 2 plies apart so that I have one thickness of paper towel. Because I read in the book that if you put both plies in, you can snap the ring. I'd rather have it tight than do this, but this happens more often than not. Now the hard part. This template is made to fit that curve when this edge touches the outside of the beak and this edge touches the shoulder. So the center line needs to be always lined up there, and you can tell where the high points are and where they're not. That's also the diameter. Not a lot. That's weird. The bottom is the one that's out. I know there's enough meat in here. I just don't have the courage.
Well, why does it have to be made any smaller?
Well, I'm trying to fit the template to the curve.
Yeah, but what does it matter anymore?
Well, I mean, it just matters at how it looks.
Well, it's gonna look great. The wood figure is gonna detract from any off spirituality, but
Oh, well, I agree, but that's not the point.
okay, what is the point?
The point is to get it as close to you can is perfect. Got to make it hard. I don't know if there's I used to read my kids Shel Silverstein. There's no fun and easy sailing, doing anything that anyone can do. That's it for me. For me, that needs to be about 1/4 of an inch or a little less. Let's see what we got. We got almost 3/8 here. Get this out of the way. This curve here is good. Smooth curve that comes in and flows into the other one. There's no bends or sharp angles like you can see there. So that beak right there needs to be 90 degrees or parallel with the waves of the wave. And then go into a radius into that point. Making that cut is where it holds my breath. Just a little bit askew and the flute is not completely closed, it'll run right up the bottom of the vase. And beats, 3 grooves on the bottom. So even if the magicians don't see a signature, if they see 3 grooves, they know it's me. When I first started making these, I wasn't allowed to sign them. Get the bottom done, so except for the very underside. The ring is mostly done. The shell is done. And we were working on the lid. Seven 16th diameter ball at the top. Okay, so I like this little spindle here, this little spindle to be about a 1/16 of an inch underneath the ball. But I can't do that with wood that's highly figured or slightly punky. But this Coca-Cola will take it.
That's a depth spray wrapper and face wrapper.
Don't forget to sand out the bead. So I have to remount it on the other chuck and sand it out. My daughter calls that a coke nail, because I guess people who take cocaine sniff with the little finger, but it's really a fingernail gouge to clean out the grooves. Okay. Okay, the base, the solid ball, the ring, the shell, and the lid. This is what we filmed the first time. This is the boxwood piece, and you can see that this needs a bit of little work because the ring and the shells stay in the lid. That's not the way these work. These work by means of dumping out the shell and the ball at the same time and multiplying the ball. And this is the Coca-Cola piece that we turned, and this is the piece of sandalwood. This one I've been carrying around for ages, and yeah, I still smell.
Great stuff. Great stuff.
Good.
So Angela, do you generally try to get when you use this model, that's the model, and it's named something, like this is the Angela 1 or something, or do you vary your design on them, or you just pretty much do it, like you said, for muscle memory?
No, I try to follow the design using templates. And of course, it varies depending on how many mistakes you make, what you have to avoid or include in the wood. So sometimes they're a little bit taller, a little bit shorter. They vary a bit.
Because it's such a tight fit, that magic trick can work. You find when you do the paint that it changes the functioning at all?
Yeah, if you notice, all of the shells and balls are painted before the fit is done. There's an egg crate there. The balls and shells are painted first. I learned the hard way that paint has thickness.
Excellent.
That's it for me. Any questions?
Not use dust collection expert because it was being filmed, or do you not use dust collection?
I don't have a dust collector. That, where that was filmed was in an 8x10 garden shed. That's my shop. So if I put a dust collector in there, I have to move something else out.
8x10.
8x10. Yep. That's the winter shop. That's where I go when it's cold out, because I can put a couple of electric heaters in there and warm it up enough so that I can work. My big lathes are in a one-car garage that I can work in 2.5 seasons out of the year when the weather's not too hot and not too cold.
Up in here.
Pardon?